How do you not trust Brandon Beane already? Always seeking value for Bills Mafia. Brandon Beane correcting the cap ever since he got here and now re-signing Ed Oliver to another 5 years in Buffalo, and Bills Mafia is upset at the number. We have to discuss it in this video. Welcome to my channel here, Bills News Consolidated. Ed Oliver getting signed to a big term contract, remaining here for the next 5 seasons is absolutely big time for the Buffalo Bills. Brandon Beane thinking ahead, planning ahead in the NFL, knowing that some top dog defensive tackles are going to be getting signed in the upcoming years, one of which, Quinnen Williams on the New York Jets, is said to be made the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. What do you think that is going to do to the average annual salary of defensive tackles? Raising that salary, raising what it would cost to re-sign Ed Oliver once Quinnen Williams gets re-signed. So Brandon Beane doing his due diligence, getting ahead of the curve here, signing Ed Oliver in a contract year before he even goes out there for 2023. And that is another concern for the Buffalo Bills. Why would you re-sign a player now without seeing him under his contract year, without seeing him take that next step? And first point I want to make here, Eric Washington, our defensive line coach, specifically said Ed Oliver is not lacking anything physical. He has an amazing physical ability to be one of the best defensive tackles in this league. What he is lacking at this point is his mental aspect, getting ahead of the play versus playing the play. You know, you want to be able to win the play before it even starts, knowing exactly what you need to do before the ball gets snapped. And Ed Oliver, Eric Washington, both specifically stating that it is the mental hurdle of the game that Ed Oliver is continuing to improve upon. And I'm sure the Buffalo Bills, Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott would not have signed him to this deal if he didn't come into OTAs completely jacked up, completely ready to go. And we always set the bar for each and every single player for the offseason, whether it's a certain weight, whether it's benching a certain amount or doing certain things to work on their crafts. Ed Oliver continues year in, year out to prove himself from a physical standpoint, and I think he proved it once again entering 2023. It's really the belief that Ed Oliver will develop his mental game, beating one-on-ones, knowing exactly what to do before the ball is ultimately snapped. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is that, you know, Ed Oliver really hasn't been surrounded by top-notch talent since he's been in Buffalo. I mean, Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison were really the best defensive ends the Buffalo Bills had. And then we have Von Miller last year goes down, tearing his ACL on Thanksgiving, and Ed Oliver got hurt at the very beginning of the year in 2022, hurting his ankle. So it's been tough to kind of do an apples-to-apples comparison between Ed Oliver and other defensive tackles in the NFL. I started doing a comparison between Aaron Donald and Ed Oliver, looking at their first 5 seasons in the NFL. You know, Ed Oliver has a decent amount of quarterback hits, not nearly the amount of sacks that Ed Oliver had, but the quarterback hits are definitely there. Tackles for loss, you know, not as much, but he definitely holds his own. Ed Oliver, to me, he lacks the overall size. He lacks the height, he lacks the overall weight, and that isn't really normal for a defensive tackle. Leslie Frazier was really preaching on wanting Ed Oliver to have the need for an interior pass rush, and the proof is there that Sean McDermott must have wanted it too, because Leslie Frazier is gone. Now, to me, Ed Oliver, since he lacks the overall height, he lacks the overall weight, a lot of people assume that he's lacking in the physicality department, but he's so skilled and ferocious. He grabs onto guys like ragdolls. He plays that line of scrimmage super, super well. And also, even in double teams against the run, you never see Ed Oliver getting pushed off to the sidelines or pushed off the field. Ed Oliver holds his own against the run. He could pivot and place these offensive linemen, filling gaps, filling up running lanes, doing just enough to allow our linebackers to fly around and make plays. So yeah, Ed Oliver isn't that big, tough run stuffer that's going to take on double teams, bull rush through double teams. You know, Ed Oliver really needs to have his one-on-one situations to excel, and that's why you need to have talent surrounding Ed Oliver. You know, Ed is really going to be hindered by the talent that's around him. And knowing that Von Miller could very well come back week 1 to week 6, I mean, that's an early start for 2022 as long as everything stays on track. Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, AJ Epinesa, progressing on the opposite end there. And then DeQuan Jones being in year 2 with the Buffalo Bills. Poona Ford being another addition. Tim Settle in year 2. Jordan Phillips, Shaq Lawson, all these guys competing, freeing things up for someone like Ed Oliver to come around, make plays, fly around, knife right in there. The fastest way to the quarterback is right between the center and guard. And I really think Ed Oliver is in a great position here to excel in 2023. And again, there's no way Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott would have signed him to this deal if they didn't believe that Ed Oliver could become something. And I guarantee you, in 5 years, after all these big name defensive tackles are re-signed by their teams, once all these big name defensive tackles are off their rookie contracts and getting signed to big time money, Ed Oliver's contract is going to look like a crazy good deal for the Buffalo Bills in 5 years. And really what it does is it frees up cap space even right now. Since we re-signed Ed, we were able to allocate and spread money throughout the contract, restructuring things, giving him more guaranteed money. It's just a very, very special thing to see here. I love Ed Oliver. He's probably one of my favorite players on the Buffalo Bills. I love his personality. He's just one of those players you got to have in the locker room, too. I think he brings up the people around him. And Eric Washington even stated throughout the years, he's becoming more vocal. He's really becoming a leader and helping the players around him, really helping out, scheming things up on a weekly basis. And again, it's not the physical aspect of Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver is a freaking freak of nature for the Buffalo Bills, the highest draft pick that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have ever brought in here, 9th overall, comes with a high expectation. Bills Mafia and Bills fans, they're expecting Ed to be Aaron Donald. And I think it's very, very unrealistic to believe that a player become an Aaron Donald, or believe that a Dorian Williams, Balin Spector, or Terrell Bernard is going to become the next Luke Kuechly. We're talking about Hall of Fame players. There's a reason why they're in the Hall of Fame. There's a reason why Stevie Johnson is not going to be in the Hall of Fame. There's a reason why, Fred Jackson isn't going to be in the Hall of Fame. Or Kyle Williams probably won't be in the Hall of Fame. You have great players. I mean, these are great players, don't get me wrong, but they're not Hall of Fame caliber type players. So if you're going to be disappointed with Ed Oliver, just simply because he was the 9th overall pick and you think that he's going to be the next Aaron Donald, or should be, you're lost. You're lost. I think Ed Oliver presents his own skill set and his own ability for this team. Sean McDermott, Al Holcomb, and this defense are going to be working around him, Von Miller, and this new defensive line with Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Trey White, all getting back here for 2023. Get hyped up, Bills Mafia. This is absolutely big-time news. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit like, subscribe for future content. Go Bills.